Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And you have enrolled to the subject of investment banking. The medium is English medium, and this is an optional subject, right? You can see your syllabus. These are the four compulsory subjects, and investment banking is one of the optional subjects. Now, out of these five optional subjects, personally, I think investment banking and financial market operations. These two subjects are go in hand in hand. Meaning is now whoever studies investment banking, basically when he or she doing financial market operations, basically the same content, syllabus content will there. So there is no much difference when you're studying financial market operations and investment banking. So basically the syllabus contents are almost similar. There are some differences, but only thing almost similar. And another factor is the learning outcomes, the learning subject topics which we are learning under investment banking subject also covered by the financial market subject. So which is a compulsory subject for all financial market. Right? Is financial market. So there are some overlapping of the syllabus content, right? And remember that there is a syllabus change also due for all. So basically next year, the second half. So basically you will have to people who are sitting for this IBSL exam have to be set under the new syllabus. So basically my request is don't postpone the exam, don't postpone it, do it, you can do that. Now what we are learning under this investment banking subject is very much we are similar. If you are working in a financial market, even under a bank or a financial company or a finance company or whatever, that's easy for you to understand. But if you are a student which you have done commerce subject, that is also easier for you to understand this. But only my suggestion is just to confine what we are learning, what we are teaching in the class only. Because investment banking subject, there is no textbook available which is localized to Sri Lanka. Now there are textbooks available, but not localized to Sri Lankan context. If you are learning international investment banking, that's fine for you all. But I'll be learning, I'll be teaching to you all everything taken from these books and to you. So my request is not to go for additional reading apart from what we are learning, what we are teaching here in the class. So no need to go. But I have a request for you. So I recommend you to read the daily FT paper, which is more important for you all. Anybody who is in the business sector, business field, that is the very good paper for you to read. So every day when you read daily FT paper for the business section, so the business related papers, that will be much easier for you to answer sometimes for this subject. For example, is now say there is a topic called government securities. Government securities is basically treasury bill and treasury bond. So that is every month, every week you have auction. So the auction notice, there should be a notice, there should be advertisement for this auction. So the auction notice is published every Monday in the papers. And also business related activities, what's happening in Sri Lanka around the world can be derived or can be read if you read this daily FT paper. So I'm recommending you to read this daily FT paper, which is more important. Sometimes examiner can test you practical aspect type of questions. He has tested several questions which are not coming under the syllabus, but if you read these papers, you have definitely answer this type of question. So basically, request is not to read, not to go for the additional reading textbooks, but you should read papers which is more related to business. For example, is business daily FT is one of them, and Sunday Times also one of them. The business section. So any paper if you take, business section is would do lot to you. So basically, my request is to learn how to read and learn out of reading. So whatever the content, whatever the relevant to you. So that is important for you to understand, not for the exam purpose, but you to understand what's happening in the country, what's happening in the world, in the business world, what's happening. So it is very important for us to get knowledge what's happening current situation. The exam is very much tested, not from the syllabus, but from the practical aspect as well. So please have a habit to read this business related papers, right? And another thing I want to tell you, this investment banking subject is the pass rate previously the historical is quite high. Pass rate was quite high. Now I have seen the latest exam pass rate, which is higher than the previous. So the exam was little easier compared to the previous, but the pass rate was quite high, quite high. So you have selected a very good optional subject, which is easier for you to pass, and you can also learn what's happening. So basically, current affairs, very much related to the banking business or the financial market business, for you to get additional knowledge, and that is also important under this subject. So what I'm trying to tell you is the subject you have chosen is very much related to the current affairs. So basically, we'll be learning what's happening. The reality is we are learning what's happening, real thing. Now, for example, if you say you are working in a bank or working in a finance company, they issue debenture. So why do they issue debenture? To get finance. So that is quite current. So we are not learning anything theory. There is a theory part in your exam. There is a theory part in your syllabus, which is evolution of investment banking. This one, evolution of investment banking. Examiner has tested only once. That was 2014 September. 2014 September. That was the first paper under this syllabus. That was the time he has tested this evolution of investment banking business. That is the theory part of this particular subject. So we'll be not learning, we'll be not teaching evolution of investment banking business. Instead of, I will be giving a question and answers to you to understand how this investment banking has evolved. How this investment banking has evolved, and also there are some model questions on your website. There are 12 model questions on your website. By doing that, you can understand how this investment banking has evolved. So I'll be giving these 12 questions with the answers. So basically, for your exam, this evolution part is covered with that. So we don't want to learn how this investment bank has evolved. Only once the exam has tested, that was 2014. After that, he has not tested anything on this evolution part of your syllabus. So, and also I need to tell you, there were some questions in your exam which is not coming under the syllabus. So basically, out of the syllabus also, exam has tested several questions, but these questions are very much practical. These questions are very much practical, meaning if you have a common sense, what's happening, or what's happening around you in the global, or what you can answer. Now you know the structure of this particular subject. There are 10 questions. That is multiple choice questions. So then you have another text type question, 4 questions you have to select. That's the present syllabus. That's a present examination structure under the present syllabus. So my request is, don't postpone the exam. and you can pass this exam pass rate. You can check with the IBSL academic staff the pass rates. The entire pass rate of the country has gone up compared to previous. It has been more than 60%. Maintaining percentage is more than 60%. Now recent past it has gone up to 75, 85 level. So that's a very good sign. And the only thing you should learn, you should take into your mind what we are learning, what we are teaching in the class, right? So if you can't understand it, just let us know. We can redo it. And the pattern of this subject is we'll be covering the entire syllabus before the exam, and we'll be giving at least 3 weeks for you to study. And before that, we'll be covering examination papers as well. So in the examination paper, you must have seen that if you have gone through it, whatever the paper, there are suggested answers. So we'll be selecting a selected question for you to do this. So sometimes once we finish the syllabus content, I may take some questions from foreign exams as well. So I'll be keeping your exam question to do it later. You have answers with you anyway. Right? So basically, we should do whatever the question which are not known to us. So and we'll be covering entire syllabus before 3 weeks left, and then you can easily study for your exam. And 3 weeks is more than enough for your exam, and this is very easy subject for you to pass. I must tell you, frankly, you can speak to one of your friends, and this is very easy subject for you to pass. And 46 marks is anyway gettable. So not an difficult subject. Only thing, there are some calculations as well. Examiner has tested several times. Easy calculation. So you can easily get 5 marks for each text type question. People are worrying about depending on the text size, but if you read the question, you will be learning how to read, how do you answer this question, what are the questions you should select. So you can understand text type questions are the easier ones than the multiple choice questions. So there are lengthy questions, but once you read it, nothing. So only the story gives. The story has given, but the question is asking what we are learning in the classroom. So easily you can pass through this, get through this exam. So your selection was right. Can pass this exam. 46 marks is anyway gettable just to pass. Have a intention for you to have more, score more, that is also possible. And I have not seen any student during my career get A pass. So I'm requesting, so I hope that this time somebody will get A pass for this subject. So this is easy subject, you can pass. And anybody who is doing a financial market and also financial management, there are some syllabus content as I earlier stated. Same thing you'll be learning also. So there are no much syllabus content. Sometimes if you see this investment advice, that is only the literal meaning. What is investment advice? That's all. So there is nothing in it. Only the literal meaning will be learning for some syllabus topic. And 5 marks. 5 marks. So the financial brokerage. What is financial brokerage? That's the question examiner asks you. Marks. You can easily answer this question. So the 5 marks is very much challenging, not a challenging, but very much important marks for your exam. Because 46 is, remember that if you get 45, you won't be able to get through. So the 46 is now generally we see for the exams, 50 is the pass mark. If you take SIMA, if you take chartered and other exams, generally pass mark is 50. But now this IBSL has reduced pass mark to 46. So remember, so whatever the marks you can get it. So don't let examiner to give you. Examiner won't give you. Why? If it is 50, definitely if it is 49, he will try to give you additional 1 mark and they will try to pass. But here, completely different. Right? So the once you get 45, you can't. As long as if you get 46 only, you can get to the exam. So very important, even you know whatever the answer part, whatever the section of your question, answer, and whatever the amount, whatever the marks you collect it. So that's that, right? That's the experience I have gained by teaching this subject last few years. The pass rate was quite high. I'm just giving you encouragement. I'm giving you some boost. The selection you to just say that your selection was correct. Selecting investment banking subject, just pass this exam is very much good choice and real choice, right? And before we start this session, I just want to do something on these three questions because when you reach into the exam, I think your exam is in November, if I'm not mistaken. Before we reach in the November, once we reach in the November, so I will be taking the same three question again. So what I want to tell you is now the present context may be different when we sitting for the exam. The exam is not preparing your paper now. You'll be taking at least 1 or 2 weeks to prepare it. You must be having an idea in your mind. Now, for example, you say now the interest rates have come, the low interest rate scenarios we are experiencing. But when you reach your exam, if the interest rates have gone up, so whatever we learned previously, immaterial, not relevant. So basically, so that's why I told you we are learning the current, we are learning the reality. So that is very important for you to understand. You have to change it. Whatever the previously you learn to the current context. So that is important. So don't worry about. I'll be taking the same scenario, same three questions and additional questions for you to give what's happening around you. But basically, we think that the same thing we learn today. Today is July month. Same thing will be prevail in the November as well. So there won't be much change expecting to change this environment. So basically, anyway, we will be taking the same question and then and there, if you find something new, we will be learning and you can write it down. You can note it down, whatever the new thing. So basically, we will be not giving any notes. I will not giving any notes. The things you think that important, you can write it down. Right? So the new things, definitely I will be giving you as a note. Right? Don't worry about it. Right? So we have done this, and new things. Now we recently you must have seen there was some investment forum, right? for the foreign parties. And participation was 4,500, and there were a lot of new strategies discussed in that, and relating to share market, relating to government security market. So those things can be tested by the examiner. We'll be learning later when the time comes, relevant when you are studying this relevant subject topics or relevant subject area. Right? So I'll be taking this additional note for you as well. Now see this. Now what's happening now? Before that, this is the syllabus. You must have seen. You must have, and know, this is known to you. There is the same thing. I'll be taking from your curriculum book. And issue management structure, I'll be giving some insights, everything. Now, all these relevant to financial management, all these relevant to financial world. Asset securitization, you must have not heard sometimes. Now, these things are available in Sri Lanka as well, right? Just an acquisitions account is subject, but we'll be learning not far, but related to our syllabus. and wealth management, fund management, all those things, right? I'll be taking each and every syllabus topic and I'll give you some kind of idea what we'll be learning and what are the things coming under each syllabus. Now see this question. So this is in a background for the syllabus. This is for the background for the subject. This is for the background for your knowledge. What's happening today in Sri Lanka and around? Today, what's happening in today? Somebody can ask you, this what's happening? So very relevant question now. See, now we are in July. So basically we'll be learning what is it talking about. Now this is talking about financial indicators. So the financial indicators, where do you get financial indicators from the central bank? So nothing new. If you go to central bank website, you can have it. Inflation, interest rate, treasury bill rates. We'll be learning all these things if you are not known to. Treasury bonds, average prime lending rates, GDP, all these things are economic indicators. Share market, whole share price index, Milan is not the S&P, all those things will be learned. So what's happening now in terms of interest rate? What's happening now? We are experiencing a low regime of interest rate. So I'm not giving I'll be not taking much with you all on the towards the syllabus, but I'm giving an overview of the syllabus to come to the syllabus. I'm just giving a base to the syllabus content. So what's interest rate? Now in terms of interest rate, so what's happening now? Once this government came into power in 2019, we had a low regime of interest rate. Now it's still prevailing. You must have said, how do you know that? How do you say we are experiencing a low regime of interest rate? So classic example, if somebody asks, somebody might say, fixed deposit rates have come down. But is there a real economic factor for us to say interest rates have come down? Now see, different banks give different interest rates. There is no interest rate common agreement. So the one bank gives 6%, one bank gives 6.5% for the 1 year deposit. It depends. There is no cap imposed. But if you see the treasury bill rate, what do you mean by treasury bill? Treasury bill is the government, if the government needs to take money from the public, rupee, the government needs to borrow from the public. They issue government securities. So the government securities has two things: treasury bill, which is short term, treasury bond, which is long term. So if the government needs to take money from the public, so they issue treasury bill and treasury bond. Does it mean that foreigners can't accept? Foreigners can't invest? They can. Foreigners are allowed to invest in government securities of Sri Lanka. So then why did I say rupees? Instrument is in rupees. If the foreigner comes to Sri Lanka and he's asking, I need to invest in government treasury bond. I have only dollars. How do I do this? You can convert into rupees and invest. Now, in 2015, we had government portfolio ownership for the foreigners is 3.5 billion. 3.5 billion from the outstanding of the treasury bond portfolio. Foreigners were held. Total amount is 3.5 billion US dollars. The percentage was 11%. Now today, it has come down to percentage 0.032. That's the exact figure. From 2015, foreigners' percentage of holding of government securities was 11%, 11.36 exact. Now it has come down to 0.032%. So the government, what has happened? Foreigners have pulled out their investment. Why this has happened? These are the things we will be learning, and this is important for you as well. And what is the importance of foreigners to come to Sri Lanka? So what is the important? Important foreign funding to Sri Lanka. So that is no question that everybody we knows that is foreign direct investment. That is one thing, and the foreign investment that is one thing. Right? So we are expecting foreigners to come to Sri Lanka for investment purposes. So then we get what? Foreign exchange. Do we need foreign exchange? Of course, we need foreign exchange. Right? So what are the methods we get foreign exchange to Sri Lanka? One thing is major thing is what? Major in the sense, not the amount wise. If it is amount wise, what is the major thing? Worker remittances, right? The last year we got Sri Lanka, we got 7.5 billion US dollars. That is the largest uh, foreign exchange supply, foreign exchange income Sri Lanka recently got, right? So, so that is the largest, and we have, you know, that we didn't have much export income. We are getting exports income as well to Sri Lanka. Then the foreign exchange comes, and we get foreign direct investment, and we get investment in government securities by foreigners. That is also one thing. And the other one is tourism, right? The tourism. Those are the major items we can see in the trade account. How do we get foreign exchange to Sri Lanka? Now, you know, this time, last year, 2020, we didn't have much expected exports. Why? Pandemic situation as arose in 2020 March. So then we had only lesser than. So generally we do 1 billion per month exports income. We are getting 1 billion. So the 1.5 billion is the import. So there is the imbalance. So the imports are more than the export. So the balance is basically you. How do you fund it? Through other sources which I told you, tourism, inward remittances, other investments. So that is how you, or otherwise if you can't get it the resources, then the borrowing, foreign borrowing. This is how you manage it, the balance, right? Rather than we go for borrowing, if we can have more tourism, if we can have more inward remittances, if we can have more what you call foreign direct investments or investment in government securities, so we are comfortable rather than taking borrowing. If we have failed of these all these alternatives, then we'll have to go for borrowing. So that's the mechanism. That's what the government is doing. Any government is doing, right? You know the reserve figure of Sri Lanka, 4 billion only. 4 billion reserves we have. So what is the importance of reserves? So it gives you how much, how long for you to survive for your imports. Basically, we can survive without having any exchange 3 months, 3.2 months generally, right? Now the India has 600 billion reserve, and Bangladesh has 47 billion. Pakistan has also 60. We have only 4. So how do you get this reserves? All these funding sources, all these funding sources. Borrowing is another one. You can borrow and you can have this reserve, but one day you have to pay. Again, you are using the same reserve. Now, you know, there is a international sovereign bond, which we'll be learning later when you come to security. Government is taking now treasury bill are the instrument government of Sri Lanka issue to gain rupee funds. So now what are the instruments they have to get dollar funds? Are there any instrument? Yes, they have SLDB, that is local Sri Lanka development bonds, which is a dollar denominated instrument issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka on behalf of the government. So what are the other methods? ISB, you must have heard this word. International sovereign bonds. That is not for Sri Lankans but for outside investors. So the Sri Lankan can't, the people who are living in Sri Lanka cannot participate, cannot invest in ISBs in the primary market. Now see the words primary market, then you have secondary market. All these things will be learned. What do you mean the primary market? Initially you issue it. If if I want to buy something from the issued portfolio, that is secondary market. That is secondary market. Now, for example, now if you take treasury bill is auction. Who can be participated in the treasury bill? Only the primary dealers. Now, there is a question in your exam. Who can be participated at the primary auction? Can you participate? No. Can I participate? No. You can't. Who are authorized to participate? Who are allowed to participate? Who have been given the license to participate? Primary dealers only. We have 10 primary dealers at the moment. Right? There are banks, plus there are private companies as well. So when we're doing this, I'll be giving you the latest auction notice. In the auction notice, it's available who are the primary dealers. And there was another question in your exam. Can't individual participate? Can't individual participate at this auction? There was an exemption for this. Now I can't participate at the auction, but only thing I can give money to the one of these primary dealers to participate on behalf of me. That's available. That was the question examiner tested before 5 months. Now, if you read this particular notice, advertisement, which is available in the papers every Monday, it is available on the website of Central Bank. If you read this, just you will be earning 5 marks. So like that. So basically, it is very important for you to read and get touch what's happening around you, right? Just to read. Now, if you read these papers, you can find out this. Then you will suddenly, if you see this, what is the treasury bill now? You know the syllabus topics are. So if you see this treasury bill, something like similar words, then you will be definitely reading further for you to get this further knowledge. So that's why I asked you to read the papers. Right? Now, for example, which we are learning, which we are discussing is now that is a dollar denominated fund. If the government needs to get dollar denominated dollars to Sri Lanka, though there are some instruments. This question not tested. Right? The only thing examiner has tested once on the interest payment of SLDB. That was the only question tested so far. And he has not tested on this international sovereign bonds. Not tested. Right? Treasury bonds, of course, there were some questions. The pricing. Now, if you want to buy a treasury bond, so how much do you want to pay? That's a question examiner. There is a method of calculating the pricing. We'll be learning later. Right? Now, in terms of interest rate, now we are experiencing a lower regime of interest rate. And how do you say lower regime of interest? If you see the treasury bill weekly, treasury bill is weekly auction result. So every Wednesday you have auction, every Wednesday, provided that there is no holiday on Wednesday. Holiday comes before, then the next previous day, Angharwada day. Same like that. So after 2 days time you have settlement. If you have if you holding a auction Wednesday, then the 5 days the settlement. You have auction, you put bids. In the auction, you put bids. Bids are of the auction. So then the settlement, if the bids are successful, Central Bank will notify you, your bids are successful, then you have to make the payment. Right. That's the mechanism. Right? That's the mechanism. So then the entire treasury bill comes to your portfolio only on Friday, not on Wednesday. Wednesday, only thing they're giving you, your bids are successful. Once you make the payment, only you get instrument into your balance sheet. Right? So every day, if you see this treasury bill rates, declining scenario. But in recent past, we have seen that one or two occasions, one peak, 5.23, 5.21, 5.20, 5.21, 5.23. Likewise, interest rate tend to go up. The 5.21 is what? Presently 5.24 is the 1 year treasury bill rate. Now this has been there for a long time. The rate, the 5.21 rate was there for a long time, quite some time. In the suddenly the 1 pip, so we call it the pip increase, little bit increase. So even we are experiencing a low regime of interest rate, there is a tendency interest rate to go up in future, not in near future. That's the word. Not in near future, but in coming years. There is a tendency interest rate to go up. Why? Why do you say so? And people are thinking like that. People are thinking like that. Now, when the interest rate to go up, very important factor is the foreign investment. When a country's interest rates are lower, foreigners are not coming to invest in government securities, especially. They like to have more yield. දැන් අපි කවුද කැමති 100ක deposit එකක් දාන්න. ඉස්සර මේක ගෙවුවා 12ක් විතර. They are losing. You don't have any option, you go for this, otherwise people are losing it. So people are trying to find out or to fetch new avenues for their income or the money deployment. They are asking. So similarly, foreigners are thinking. Foreigners are looking for interest rate to go up. So the lower regime of interest rates in all, they are reluctant to come to Sri Lanka, reluctant to come to the particular country. They need more interest rates. If they have increased the interest rate, what happens? Foreigners might come, then you get foreign currency as well. So the interest rate increasing means what? You have to pay more. Who has to pay more? Even the bank for their deposit, government also has to pay more, borrow from the public. So the interest cost is rising. So that now all these fundamental economic factors are interconnected. You can't take decision isolated. You can't. You can't just increase this interest rate thinking that foreigners will come and invest. Then what will happen to the exchange? So what will happen to the government expenditure? Very difficult. What will happen to the interest, the inflation? Very difficult for you to take a decision isolated, individually. Take a common decision considering all these factors. So that's a very difficult factor. So running a government is very easy. Right? So all these economic fundamentals are interconnected. Now you must have seen now in Sri Lanka, I must tell you, these fundamentals are not working. Now you must have seen inflation recently. We are measuring the inflation two methods, CCPI and NCPI. There are two methods for you to learn, national and Colombo price index. Also we have headline inflation and core inflation. Now all these two recently compared to the previous has gone up. Right? CCPI has gone up to NCPI has gone up to 6.1, and CCPI has gone up to 5.5 from 4.5 from mistake, that is in June. And this one in NCPI has gone up 6.1% from 5.2. Inflation has gone up. What do you mean by inflation? Prices of goods and services going up. Inflation. When the inflation goes up in a country, obviously interest rate has to go up. Has it happened in Sri Lanka? No, it has not happened. As the fixed deposit rates have gone up, no. Government, banks have not increased their fixed deposit rates. They have not done it. So then the amount you get has to pay more for the inflation compensation. Now see, now if I told you I told you the government treasury bond, treasury bill 1 year rate was 5.2%. 0.24. 1 year. But the inflation is how much? 6.1 or 5.5. The amount we get, is it compensated? Does it compensate the inflation? No. Now 5.24 is the inflation adjusted. Inflation is adjusted percent rate. So then the people who invest in treasury bill get a negative return. So you can't compensate the inflation as well. So that's why fundamentals are not working in Sri Lanka. Inflation. So basically you get negative return. Now you must have, if you are working in a bank or financial institution, for dollars, banks pay more than the rupee. Now the recently concluded SLDB, we pay 9 months or 1 year, 7.6. Whereas 1 year FD, we pay how much? 1 year FD we pay only 6%. Only 6%. So very, very important for you to understand. So what's happening around you. So, and another thing is I want to tell you, if you take GDP, that is gross domestic, that is our main thing. So we are expecting now, 2020. You should know these things. If we are just refreshing, if you know these things, just refresh what I am saying. 2020, we had a negative growth due to this pandemic, right? And the second half of 2020, we had 16.4% negative growth. And the third quarter, the final quarter, we had positive. Then we have ended up with 3.6% minus. And we were expecting this year, before the third wave came into effect, 6% economic growth. But now we are expecting less than 4% or less than 4% growth. So we don't know what will happen if this prevails further. We'll have to suffer more. Similarly, and also you must be seeing 2020. In 2019 also we had a problem, Easter Sunday attack, but that is confined to Sri Lanka only. Right? Only the hit we received tourism. Tourism generally we get $4 billion every year. Now that year we got only 3.7, but 2020 we are only 957. So drastic reduction due to this pandemic. So very difficult year. So we are actually depending on more tourism, like Maldives. Right? Maldives entire country is depending on tourism. Right? So it's very difficult for you to run a government, have a more economic boost without having this foreign exchange. So what I want to tell you is we are learning, we'll be learning, we are experiencing a low regime of interest rate, but there is a tendency interest rate to go up. So where the indication came? Indication came from where? From the treasury bill rate, weekly option treasury bill rate. So we'll be learning treasury bill now, treasury bill rate and treasury bond rate. Just plotting all these dots, we will be deriving what you call this graph called yield curve. You'll be learning what this yield curve. Examiner has not tested. There are 4 types of. Once he has tested what are the yield curves, and we learn 4 yield curves later, going up, coming down, constant, and pumped up like that. We'll be learning later. And the only thing you have to keep in mind, presently we are experiencing a low regime of interest rate, but there is a tendency interest rate to go up in the future. So that's why your bank has not given much fixed rate for lending. banks are encouraging people to get variable interest, AWPLR. So what do you mean by AWPLR? Average weighted prime lending rate. So your bank special customers, prime customers are given this rate. So generally you are giving this kind of customers lower interest than the other circular rates. Circular rate take but since this is prime customer, you are giving lesser interest rate for their lending, they are borrowing. So your lending, they are borrowing. So that is prime interest, prime average weighted prime lending rate. The presently average weighted prime lending rate is 5.85%. This has been the previous year. This has last year similar corresponding to 8.8. Come down. After 12%, which has come to single digit. So the government intention is to have single digit. And another thing is why I say this lower interest rate is prevailing for some time. Government intention, there is intention of the government to have a more private sector credit growth. The government was expected to have it 14% this year, but due to this pandemic, they have brought it down to 12%. So 12% private sector credit growth is expected by the government. So if you want to give the banks, the financial institution want to give more loans to the private sector, then interest rate has to be lower. So that is another factor. Government intention to maintain this lower interest rate. So all these things are important for you to understand, right? And also you'll be learning the instruments as well. And now in the banking sector, what's happening? The banking sector, there are import restrictions now to protect the dollar exchange, USD LKR exchange rate. So that is also important. Yesterday also there was some extension of the migrant allowances as well. So the government needs to protect their whatever the available foreign exchange without going out of this country. So they are restricted to send out money, but there is nothing new on this yesterday's release circular. Same thing, only the extension only. And there are some import restrictions. Vehicles you can't import, unnecessary goods, luxurious goods. You can't invest, only the essential goods can be imported. And remember that the funny thing is, even we have import restrictions prevailing in the country, compared to 2020, these 5 months imports have gone up. How come it happens? That's the thing. Imports have gone up compared to 2020, these 5 months. How come? You can't have it. That's the thing. People thinking that they try to avoid, they try to go out of this restriction indeed. So all these items are essential. There are some items which are not essential, but they import. Some banks are not opening LCs. Some banks are not giving TT payments. Some banks are delaying their payments due to their shortage of dollars. So difficult situation. So very difficult. So I think more restrictions are needed. So even we have restrictions. So if you see the imports have gone up, no point of having restrictions. The only source the banks have is the worker remittance. People who are working abroad sending money to Sri Lanka only. There are few exports also happening, and we can see that 4.6 billion export income we have earned these 5 months. Only 1 month, that was March, has exceeded the $1 billion export income. Other 4 months have below 1 billion. So very difficult, right? So this is not confined to Sri Lanka only. common to other countries as well. So then if you produce, if you can't export it, people are not there to buy it, another problem comes. Same thing happening. Even you produce it, other countries people are not ready to buy it. They have the pandemic situation as well. So it's a very difficult situation, right? And also you see this GST plus. Now they are coming under discussion to repeal it, right? So the what happens GST plus? What is GST? Is a GST plus two things. GST plus has more advantages duty concession than the GSP. Now GSP system, Sri Lanka was part of the GSP system from 1970, but we got a GSP plus situation 2005. Now, once we have a problem with this civil war, they have removed Sri Lanka from the GSP plus from 2010. Again, we regain it 2017. Now, what happens when you lose this GSP plus? So, when you export apparel to EU, European zone, when you export your what do you call this um, fisheries item, when you export whatever the other products to EU, you are taxed. The amount you send is taxed 9%, 16% like that. So if you have a GSP plus, then tax is not there. So that we can sell it at a lower price. So the people who are in Eurozone can be purchased at a lower level. Now, who are this getting this? There are 8 countries who are coming under this GSP plus. We have Armenia and other countries, and we have Pakistan, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. Then there are Boston, like that. There are 8 countries who get GSP plus. Now remember that we will be losing GSP plus anyway if you reach our gross national income per capita reached to 3,996. Now what is the present gross national income per capita? 3,552. But if we have increased by $400, the amount we get as a person per capita, anyway we are losing. So the people are saying that for the cancellation, it takes at least 1 year. So we should not worry about the GSP plus situation at the moment. So it takes a long way to go. But government has yesterday I saw that government is going to they are going to taking a decision to this for the amendment of this Prevention of Terrorism Act. We don't know what will happen. So that's the situation. So why I say this? So you should know that what's happening in Sri Lanka, what happens to this exchange rate, why this has appreciated, why this has not happened. Now, so see, now in your bank, the selling rate is $203. But if you have a currency note with you, you can go and outside and get it in cash. How much you can get it? 230, 225. So why this difference? Now in Sri Lanka, we have a ban. Ban in the sense there is a limit, buying and selling rate. That is an agreement between banks. You can purchase dollars at 200, you can sell dollars at maximum 203, like that. So there is a ban and the people are working this, but people think that if we release this bandwidth, so the rupee can further depreciate. So that's the thing. Since we are not getting much expected supply, as I told you, we work remittances, export, FDIs, like that, right? We'll be getting it. So we don't have supply, then demand is there. So that obviously in exchange rate tend to depreciate, right? If you release this ban. So all these now import restrictions. So you have export income also, and you are experiencing lower regime of interest rate, your deposit you pay less amount, and also you pay for your lending less amount. So you have to manage at a lower regime of interest rate in this way. So basically you are maintaining the same target, same gap, same spread, but at a lower regime of interest rate. Now you know deposits are repriced at a different level. Now if you put the 3 months deposit, after 3 months it's repriced. If you are experiencing a low regime of interest rate, your deposit is renewed at a lower rate. But what happens to your loans? Loans are not repriced as you want. So after tenor only, it repriced. So basically banks are making profit sometimes. But if you give long-term fixed rate, what happens? Now last year, 2019, you have given 10-year loan at 15%. You are comfortably okay. But today, if you are giving 10-year loan at, we say, 8% or 9%, what happens? You are losing. Sometimes you might lose. Why? We don't know what will happen after 5 years. So if the interest rates are gone up, still the problem. Your lending, the people who borrow, they will be maintaining at a lower interest rate. So you might lose it, but it is your treasury's duty to avoid this mismatch by funding source. So you can lower the source of funding. The cost has to be reduced from the funding source. Deposit or interest rate borrow for interest rate you can match it. So we'll be learning now that part. Of course, you'll be learning if you are doing financial management. ALM, asset liability management. That is important. How do you manage the assets and liabilities? So what do you mean by asset in a bank or a financial company? Loans. What's the liability? Deposit. So how do you manage? Simple. Asset and liability. Loans and deposits. Right? That is asset and liability management. ALCO. We take decision on interest rate in the ALCO. Right? That is asset and liability management. So banking sector, difficult situation is due to this dollar crisis, and also you must have seen some rupee liquidity. Now in the market there are 73 billion rupee liquidity plus, but some banks are experiencing a rupee liquidity short situation. They don't have much rupee liquidity as well. But don't worry about rupee liquidity. Why? Important thing I'm just going to tell you. If the bank does not have rupee, they have option. They have option what? They have option and go to central bank and borrow it. So that option is anyway there. But dollars, no. Rupee, you can go to central bank window and borrow it for your purpose, for the banking purpose. At what rate? 5.5. Anything excess in the banking sector, you can deposit in the central bank as well. What rate? 4.5. What are these two rates? SDF and SLF. I'll be giving a note on terms, and next week I'll be giving a terms and their meaning of these particular terms. What do you mean by SDF? What do you mean by SLF? So the anything excess of the end of the day, now 3 o'clock the banks are closed. So the 350, 330 you know how much you have excess, how much you have short rupee. If it is excess, now if bank excess now, the last option is what? Go and deposit in the central bank. Go and deposit in the central bank. If you need money, or otherwise, if you don't want to deposit in the central bank, you can lend it to another bank, which is in requirement. If you want to borrow from if you need to borrow, you don't want to go to central bank directly. That resort is anyway there. You can ask one of the banks, if you have excess, please, would you like to lend it to me? If another bank has excess, they can lend it to you. So that is interbank market. See the word interbank. The last resort is what? Central bank. So don't worry, the banks are not worrying about it. Banks are not worrying about it. Banks are not worrying about it. Banks are not worrying about the rupee liquidity in Egypt, right? So rupee liquidity, we don't want to worry about. The only thing we have a concern of foreign currency, dollar liquidity. But remember that, so somebody can ask, so the rupee liquidity, why central bank is not a central bank is a regulator? If the bank needs dollar liquidity, dollar, why does the central bank can't provide? So is it no, is not ethical for them to provide? Yes, they have to do that. But only thing these days they are not doing it. Why? They have a commitment of reserve building. They have a commitment of reserve building. As I told you in the earlier part, reserves are very much important for you to pay this. That is the economic indicator to see that, to give outsiders, to give rating agencies how much you are strong. Now, recently Fitch has issued a statement 1 or 2 days ago, worried about the dollar position of Sri Lanka. Now, every year we have to pay $4.5 billion for the repayment of debt. But whereas we have now 4 billion. So how do we? So they think they think that the virtual bank, but Sri Lanka has a very good track record that we have not defaulted anything like Lebanese, like Argentina, like Greece. We have not bad reputation among international markets, but international rating agencies are thinking that there is a problem if we don't manage it. So what is this international rating agencies duty? Why do they say so? Another question in your exam, rating agencies role. Now remember now, as I told you, ISB, international sovereign bonds, foreigners have invested in these bonds. Now we have 13 number of sovereign bonds. Total amount is 14 billion outstanding. So the foreigners have invested in these bonds. So the foreigners don't know what's happening in Sri Lanka. They'll have to give a independent opinion what's happening in this country. How they can me? Fitch, S&P, and Moody's. Who are they? They are the rating agencies. So they are giving independent opinion to these investors. Look here, your investment is at this much risky or whatever. Anybody who wishes to invest in Sri Lanka, they give a report. By looking at this kind of report, oh, should I invest in Sri Lanka? Then they have to think twice. Like that. Right. So that's very important for you to have reserves ready. So how do you fill the reserve? Like the dollar supply, many sources. So we have sources have actually dried up now. Right. So difficult situation too, they will have to accept that. But our track records are good. So I don't think that we will never default it. We'll see what is the government decision. And anyway, this 27th July, we have 1 billion sovereign bonds to be settled. Government has prepared to pay it with the interest. And this 1 billion, 300 million has put Sri Lankan banks. What do you mean by that? I told you Sri Lankan banks are not allowed to invest in ISD. Told you. Only foreigners are allowed. But how come you say then Sri Lankan bank? No, that is primary and secondary. Primary market, of course, you can't. Primary market means what? Government of Sri Lanka issue a instrument. To who? Foreigners. That is primary market. So the who is having the now says foreigner has invested. That is primary market is finished. Government of Sri Lanka and foreign. Now, Central Bank has given authority to Sri Lankan banks. Remember the Sri Lankan bank, including NSB. to invest in this ISB in the secondary market. If this bank purchase from this foreigner, that is secondary market, already issued. If this bank purchases from a foreigner, that is secondary market, which is allowed. Now it's prohibited, but that's why the local banks have this much 300 million investment in this July is our many banks have. Now it's banned since the foreign currency goes out. It's banned. Now it was allowed from the secondary market. Why the government has put it? Now say when the government issue ISB, if the local banks invest, nothing new comes. Alut funds in Pitrating in the Pitra foreigners funds in so Pitra do not pass the hour pass then you can purchase from the foreigners. Banks are but the government has received money, so that's fine. That is secondary market. Similarly, share market also similar. Now the IOP, IPO. IPO. Similar thing. Company issue a share to particular people and they are holding it. That's IPO. Initial public offering. If I want to purchase this share, I can purchase from that particular investor through share market. That is secondary market. That is secondary market. There are two types of market. The first market, now primary market is what? The first market between two parties. The purchase already issued, whatever the financial instrument, that is secondary market. So similarly, so all these things are very important for your knowledge, right? That's why I told you. So in the future also we are expecting the same. And once we reach the examination, so we'll be again then and there we'll discuss what's happening, something different things happening. What we are discussing today, we'll be learning. A lot of things we have discussed. A lot of things are there. Exchange rate, inflation, all these are interconnected. So all these just have a kind of knowledge on it. If you have any doubt, please raise questions and we can clarify it. So I think you are the people who carry this message to outside. So the people are worrying about these new circulars. Why can't we send foreign currency to abroad? Can't we send money to our children who are learning, studying in abroad? No, there is no restriction like that. Only capital transfers are not there. If you want to purchase a land abroad, there is a restriction. That is the restriction. Only thing there is a limit restriction only. You can still bring, you can still take it out. There is no any restriction like that. Import restrictions are there. So you only carry this message to the outsider. So outsiders interpret in a different way, right? So let's move into this syllabus topics. I'll be not taking today. I'll be only thing. I'll just wanted to give you syllabus contents only, right? I'll tell you what's in it only. So we can now evolution part is will be not taking with you all. Only thing I'll be doing with some answers and questions. So issue management, equities, shares, debt, securities are the debentures. So we'll be learning in depth how the securities are issued, debentures are issued, how do they price, and the shares, how do share market, how do you purchase shares, how do you sell shares, what are the income you will be getting, and IPO, how does it leak, how does it work, and all those things. Comprehensive knowledge will be getting under issue management. So the structuring of security in the sense, now if you want to sell shares, if you want to issue shares, you should have a price. What price we should issue? And also you might learn right issues, bonus issues, share splits, and all those things we'll be learning under structuring of securities. And also Debentures, how do you structure a debenture? Pricing, amount, compliances. Now you can't have this just a debenture as you want. There are compliances requirements, and recently banks have issued additional tier 1 perpetual instrument. That is a recent addition. Examiner has not tested so far. We were expecting examiner to test that. He has not tested, but there is a chance of testing perpetual opportunities. I'm sorry, perpetual bonds, which is there is no maturity period, indefinite. Debenture there are no 5 years, 5 year debenture, 5 years finish. But perpetual means there is no time, right? Infinite, right? Asset securitization is what? Asset securitization is basically doing the leasing company. Leasing companies, they are doing business, so there is a mismatch. So the leasing company pays entire amount to Toyota, for example, on behalf of you, but you pay to the leasing companies in installment basis. Cash outflow from the leasing company, whatever 8 million, for example, but 8 million, how do you pay to the leasing company? 60 installment, 5-year loan, mismatch. How can it now phone the leasing company? Then there is a mechanism given for them asset securitization. So they can sell this CR, certificate of registration. That's another product we'll be learning. Examiners tested this question very often. Underwriting, now if you are issuing an IPO, if you're not sure people will subscribe, then you can appoint an underwriter to purchase unsubscribed amount. That's underwriting. Corporate finance services, loan syndication, you can't give one, if you can't give a loan to particular person, depending on the amount, if it is a big amount, then you get to then give. Leverage buyout means what? You purchase a company from the borrowed funds. There is another term called MBO, management buyout, acquired by the management. So there are methods we'll be learning. And investment advice. Investment advice is what? When you want to invest in shares in the share market, then you have to seek the advice. You have to find a broker, financial broker. The broker is the same. Then you see the advisors, the holding shares. How do you know that this shares to be sold, this shares to be buy? What time you have to take this decision? So the investment advice is based on that. So you take the advice based on the investment advice. So basically investment report sent by these brokers. So every broker, if you are or will be learning how do you enroll, how do you invest in share market. So every broker sends you, once you engage with them, reports. So based on that you can have this decision. This is your decision, whether to sell, whether to hold, whether to. There are 3 decisions you have to take: hold, sell, purchase. It's up to you to decision. Up to you to take decision. The financial brokering, same thing. So the brokering, sometimes it's legal, huh? Not always, but sometimes it's legal. Now, if you want to purchase a share from the share market, brokering is legalized. That's legal. Proctor and trading will be learning very little on the foreign exchange transaction. How do you do this foreign exchange transaction? It's very much important. And one might think how this foreign exchange transactions are relevant to investment banking. Foreigner comes to Sri Lanka, then foreign exchange transaction involved. And there are derivative mechanism also. If someone has tested one, what are the derivative mechanisms? Derivative instruments also will be learning, not in deep, but to the extent of our syllabus, our subject, right? So that is foreign exchange transaction. How do you do this? Mergers and acquisition, to get together, to acquire a company, and that is also basically the accounting subject. But examiner has once tested the methods of acquiring. How do you settle the dues, purchase consideration? So we'll be learning these methods of settling of mergers. Mergers means you get together. There is A and B. A and B you get together. Then you have a new company called C. Acquisition means what? A and B, there are two companies. A acquires B. Both the companies are existing. But on the merge, existing companies are vanished. New company comes. Acquisition, both the companies are existing. You get what? Only the controlling stake. Only the controlling stake. And wealth management and fund management almost similar. Only the scope is different. Wealth, if you say wealth, bigger meaning. Fund is part of wealth. Wealth means advisors, tax advisors, everything. Not only the fund, but other things also you manage on behalf of you. So the investment banking divisions are doing these things. Investment banking, if you are working in a bank, go and see, check the investment banking division, they are doing it. Wealth management, they are doing it. Portfolio management, they are doing it. Fund management, they are doing it. On behalf of others, you manage and give a return to them, and you also charge a fee. Restructuring of capitalization. Now, troublesome, there are companies who make continuous losses. When you make continuous losses, what happens? Your capital is eroded, accumulated losses. So how do we turn around these kind of companies? We'll be learning under restructuring and recapitalization. So how do you turn around a loss-making company into profitable venture? Not the profitable, but to how to have a clean balance sheet. Balance sheet restructuring will be learned, right? And investment research, that was the literal meaning, reports we are getting from the investment companies and security analysis, and how do you analyze which sector. Now see, now if you ask to invest share market, hotel sector, do you invest? No. Hotel sector, you don't invest. So basically, how do you take this decision? You get a report from the research agencies. So they say these are the types of counters and these are the types of shares you have to think about. You have to invest. And project appraisal also another accounting subject, but we'll be learning, and this was tested several times, and we'll be learning present value of this project appraisal. Now, for example, say there is a machine. Project is not necessarily be a four-seater project like. Now, purchasing a machine is another project. How do you say so? Who has people who have done this SIMA and Chartered, they know it. Purchasing a machine, you will have to spend money, and you are deriving income over the period. So basically, you match income and expenses, and you match all these cash flows into today's term. Then you take a decision. Your income is deriving over the 5 years time, but you can't add this. Why? Inflation. Then present value has to be found out. NPV, net present value. Based on the net present value, we take this decision whether we should purchase this machine or not. We learn under that present value and NPA. If it is positive, then project is viable. NPA is negative, means you should reject the project. So we'll be learning everything. Very similar to government fixed account calculation. Same thing, same mechanism, same methodology for the project appraisal as you're finding the present value. For the government security treasury bond, you are finding the present value, today's term. But project appraisal, you are finding the net present value. For the government securities, you don't have an initial cash outflow. You first think, should I invest at the present value? For project appraisal, you are spending on something. Spending and see whether this worthwhile. We'll be learning the difference when you're doing the question. That's the only question part you have. Other than that, the other thing is only the real backgrounds of real things we are learning. So, any question you have? So I'll be not taking anything with you all today. I just wanted to give you a background for you all, just to give an idea how these syllabus are there, and how this syllabus are there, and how these contents are relevant to R1. So any question you have before we wind up today's session, so we can start from next week onwards for the syllabus content. Any question you have? Right. Since you don't have any question, we'll be learning. I'll be uploading some notes to you. I have uploaded two PowerPoints, and also I'll be uploading some terms which are important for you to understand, or these financial words terms also. So thank you very much for participating and listening. Any questions you bring it to the class, we can discuss for the others benefit as well. Anything related to economy, it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes it may not relevant to particular subject, but doesn't matter. You bring it to the class, and for the others benefits also we can discuss economic factors, all those things, right? So thank you very much for being participated, right? Thank you.